Right, 6th of February, Man City allegations surface. 115 charges. Were you aware of this, Buvey?
You didn't tell me that we were going to be talking about this before you asked me to come on the show.
You needed all legal.
Yeah.
Right
I've got to speak to my lawyers.
Why don't you just deny it?
You and your
Just deny
lawyers.
it.
I said no comment.
Just be like your club and deny it.
No comment.
There you go.
Well, that's
Kick it
fine.
into
Most
the
of us
grass.
can pick this one up. That's why there's enough of us. It's good.
I think it's probably the most important thing that can happen to the Premier League, and that it's definitely the most significant. The reason probably why it won't be number one is because it's been dragged into the weeds by.
It will be number one when there's a resolution.
Yeah.
Whatever year the resolution comes, 2025.
Yeah.
It will be number one in this conversation then.
Yeah, but there's been talk that actually could even with appeals be pushed back to 2030. And
30?
2030.
At that point, who cares anymore?
Yeah.
I certainly don't.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah, I probably won't know Buvey to ram it down his throat by then. So,
You have to talk about it now, eh? as long as it gets pushed back to 20. And so, because I've got, let's look further down the line with Everton. Everton obviously actually got deducted 10 points this year, November the 20th. Will that speed this up? And in terms of moments of this year, it's funny how something as enormous as 115 charges just gets... But this is, I think, there's a wider problem here. You see this with everything. Like there was the draw for the Champions League last 16, and they started going, and of course we'll be saying goodbye to the format as it is, which was decided 2 years before that, and now it's like, well, it's on its way out now, and you can't. It's too late to sort of scrabble it back.
Yeah.
Something like this, that's the similar kind of thing that's just going to take forever.
It will take forever. There's no similarities between what happened at Everton and what's happening at Manchester United and what will be happening to Chelsea as well. In that
Oh, you have a legal degree? Sorry. Oh, you're Mystic Meg. Is there a crystal ball in front of you rather than a microphone?
I can explain it very simply.
Okay.
Everton admitted more or less that they did something wrong, whereas your two clubs won't.
No, but
And-
we haven't been
Man City,
charged.
but I have to just defend the club. The Man City have the right to defend ourselves. Man
Absolutely.
City have the right to deny allegations,
Absolutely.
and ultimately 150 allegations is a lot. And it's not about arbitrarily dragging it into the grass. If you actually look at the detail of the amount of allegations, the amount of information that legal teams from both an independent adjudicator has to go through and Man City lawyers, that's why it's taken so long, because it is a massive case. So if it matters to the average football fan like we're all talking about, it deserves scrutiny to that length of time.
And so it should. It has to be. You have to get the sort of correct answer.
My friend Flav, need to respect the rule of law.
I love the rule of law. I'm all for the rule of law.
You don't respect it. Chelsea haven't even been charged and you found us guilty. How dare you?
It's only a matter of time.
With that attitude.
He's on the case.
Inspector Flav.
Ruth Ellis hung.
You wait.
Ruth Ellis hung for murdering her. You wouldn't have even let her have a trial, would you? She shot her husband outside the Magdala pub on Hampstead High Street. You wouldn't have even let her have a trial.
She was guilty.
Yeah, bad example from me, actually. She did.
Come on.
Lighten
It
up.
looks just like she's done it. She did it. Brilliant. Far more importantly, on the 12th of February, Nathan Jones lost his mind.
Yes, he did.
Do you remember? This is what Nathan Jones will be remembered for. So,
Oh, Southampton.
a couple of the favourite quotes. Yes, former Southampton manager. If he just stuck with Luton, he'd be in the Premier League right now. Possibly.
Well, Luton got promoted the last time he left Luton to get to the Championship.
Yeah.
And then he came back to Luton, and then he left again. They got promoted to the Premier
Honestly, he was holding him back, to be honest.
Maybe.
League. He builds a foundation, but
There
you
you
can't
go.
see it through with Luton. It's really weird.
Clearly.
Rob Edwards.
Yeah.
So, obviously he had a tough time, and then he was always a bit chatty, and it was always a bit sort of David Brent-esque. So here are some of the best ones. So this was after the Wolves game, which was when I remember driving home from QPR, and I heard this, and I went, he's gone. Goodbye. He said the 10 men was to our detriment because it made it a free hit for them and added more pressure. So for context, it was the other team that had 10 men.
Yeah.
And he said that was to their detriment.
He was actually brilliant. It's a sad loss to the Premier League that he's not still plying his trade with us. There was one. Do you remember when they played Man City? I think they got quite a good result.
They knocked City out of the
They
cup.
stopped us being a quadruple side.
Yeah, they stopped the quadruple.
Yeah.
Yeah.
After
They got
Nathan
a
Jones,
good result, but the way that he would speak after games, I found it brilliant and refreshing and like beautiful to have
I
in the
found
Premier
it
League.
lunacy. To
No,
be
it was.
honest with
No,
you.
but the two things can
It's
coexist.
fun though, isn't it?
It was lunacy and wonderful because there's nothing worse than a performative, almost scripted, PR'd interview, is it?
He said there weren't many better than me in Europe. This was after a couple of games.
that's good.
He also claimed that the fans were watching a different game to him when they were booing him.
Fantastic.
And he said, "I could have stayed." This is great. I could have stayed in a mining community, been a PE teacher, and had a nice life.
Normal Welsh girl.
Local
He said
Welsh
something
girl.
about a normal Welsh girl.
Yeah. I could have been a PE teacher, had a nice life, married a nice Welsh girl. Beautiful. I don't. I want to test myself on every level. And that's nothing against Welsh women.
You said that last part.
I want to test myself against other women. He didn't say the last bit. Yeah, amazing. And
That's what a loss to the Premier League.
What a loss.
will he return to the Premier League?
Absolutely
I
not.
hope
Are you
so.
insane?
I think it's a world, yeah, of course. In terms of getting the side promoted out of the championship, he's a good
Okay.
championship
Yeah,
EFL
maybe.
manager.
Yeah, I hear
He
that.
is, he is.
But in terms of a
Gotta
Premier
give him
League
credit for what he's good
team
at.
looking at him
No.
as a new appointment, never.
No.
Oh, of course, not
Never.
the Premier League.
26th of February. Karius plays in the League Cup final. That was sort of like 3 weeks into the ripple effect starting. We were like, this is very useful when we're trying to get across a concept of something happening, which leads to something happening. He did all right actually in the final, didn't he? And that was the height for Man United in what's been a really, really odd.
It's all been downhill
Yeah.
from there, honestly.
Okay, so I mean, we can make our way because we'll go around the different clubs.
Yeah.
How do you reflect on 2023?
Like you said, I mean, it started really well. Kind of that post-World Cup period is where Rashford hit that incredible vein of form. We were looking like we beat you guys dubiously at that. We had a decent performance against Arsenal, very unlucky to lose. And I think at that point we were all kind of looking at Ten Hag 6 months into his tenure and thinking, okay, this might be the first time post-Fergie that we've gotten it right. And then, which I'm sure we're going to talk about soon, that result happened. And honestly, it's all been downhill from there. A lot of people didn't really like clock at the time that post Carabao Cup final, the performances and the results started declining slowly at first, but then slowly started building momentum. And I mean, it's ironic, right? Because I remember Ollie saying towards the end of his tenure that like trophies are kind of like sometimes an illusion and can make you feel that the situation is a bit better than it actually is. And sometimes it's only for an ego, the ego of a manager or the set of fans. And we all laughed at him at the time because he hadn't won anything. But looking back at 2023, it's kind of ironic because that trophy was exactly that for United fans. A nice bit of ego boosting. Okay, this is the first trophy in 6 years, but we're in a worse situation now 6 months later after that trophy than we probably were the 3 years before it without any trophies.
It's so weird.
It's so weird.
It's so weird because I will always put forward the theory that winning silverware, particularly the League Cup, you know, you think about the way that Jose Mourinho always respected that trophy, it would be the catalyst for more silverware. You win the League Cup, you win the league. You win the League Cup, you win the FA Cup. You win the League Cup, you do well in Europe. It seems to be the springboard. No, genuinely, it does seem to be.
100%. I remember,
and Jose Mourinho would always say that. And then at the time, it felt symbolic. Manchester United have beaten Newcastle. Newcastle have lost a cup final yet again. You know, the wait, what was it, 69, they won the Fairs Cup. The wait goes on. And Manchester United, Erik Ten Hag's getting everything right and they're winning. Those two clubs have basically, it's had the adverse effect on each one.
You know what my thinking about that is, right? I completely agree. Like, I used to say that all the time about Mourinho. Even at United, the first trophy he won was the Carabao Cup, and we went on to win the Europa League.
Yeah, in Amsterdam against Ajax,
But the
wasn't it?
difference between those managers and those teams is that first taste of silverware was almost like, oh, we want more now. That's kind of like, okay, we got a taste of it. We want to now go and win more and more and more and more. It's a bit of motivation. This group of players almost won the cup, and it was like a weight off their shoulders. Okay, like back to kind of just relaxing on a beach in somewhere I don't even know.
And I swear, every time they've played each other since, Newcastle have won.
They thrashed us. It's not even just beating us. They've absolutely thrashed us.
5th of March, Liverpool 7, Man United 0. This win single-handedly changed each team's year and how their years will be remembered.
Facts.
Everyone forgets that before this game, Liverpool were actually beneath Man United in the league. Liverpool sat on 42 points with only 12 wins from 25 matches. Man United had 49 points from 15 wins from 25 matches. But with hindsight, we may be able to look back at this specific match as the pinpoint moment where perceptions of both teams changed.
You know, Liverpool lost the next week to Bournemouth. The very next game they lost to Bournemouth.
Really?
Yeah.
It was 1-0, wasn't it?
Something cracked there.
Salah
didn't
missed
it?
the penalty.
Something really, really kind of cracked. I think it's often with the problem with this is the aftermath, because I've actually thought about the opposite that's happened this time. Man United got for me, a fortunate draw against a lackluster Liverpool, right? But when it is a point, then the Keanes and the Nevilles and those guys in that studio, what comes out of their mouth after that is huge. It is huge. It goes everywhere. And even though they'd had, a good period of time in the weeks before that, get pumped by Liverpool 7-0. it's just, talk about springboards. Like afterwards, the conversation, Graham Souness and Carragher were like loving every second of it. And
well, it is completely unacceptable, isn't it? Certain things in football you can tolerate an awful lot, and I think fans will do this. We all have for our respective clubs certain things that are unacceptable. Like if you think about how tolerant Arsenal fans were with Arsene Wenger, Arsenal fans may agree or disagree with me here, but they were so tolerant with Wenger. They were underachieving. They went a decade without a trophy, and they were persevering with it. The fans were on board because of what Wenger had achieved, because of the legacy, and crucially, because they were finishing above Tottenham. Tottenham started finishing above them, and suddenly that was the sea change.
There's a line.
That was it was like, this is unacceptable now. Like what's different? You got the same points tally. You got this. Yeah, but Arsenal are 5th and Tottenham have gone 4th. Therefore, it's unacceptable. We all have those moments, and I think that what Ten Hag headed up there was the moment where Manchester United fans suddenly went, "This is unacceptable.
Yeah.
Like this isn't a defeat.
Yeah.
This is a humiliation."
You know what? I actually disagree. Because
Really?
I feel like a lot of the times, especially this season, opposition fans, they look at United fans and say, you have no patience with Ten Hag, or at least pundits do a lot. You have no patience with Ten Hag. You have to believe in the project. You have to kind of be in this for the long haul. I think United fans actually looked at that result, and we were so behind Ten Hag that we almost like stacked it up to just a fluke. United fans did not really jump on Ten Hag for that result. In fact, a lot of us looked at the players. Luke Shaw, for example, was at fault for about 5 of those goals. David De Gea, Weghorst, Bruno kind of nagging at the referee, and there was one point where we all thought he was asking to be taken off. I think we actually turned a lot of the attention at the players, but I think it speaks a huge volume to how behind Ten Hag we were, that no one really kind of looked at him as a huge reason for why we just had a historic loss against our all-time biggest rivals.
Although it can be both. Like when I'm saying that something can happen, and that can be the moment that the fans go, okay, enough's enough.
Yeah.
That can be managerial, or it can be at the players. Like I think sometimes, maybe. Do you believe that there's any player, maybe like you mentioned Luke Shaw there, has any player not recovered from that 7-0? Has it had a lasting effect?
I think Rashford, honestly, during that period he was unplayable. Post that moment, I don't think he's ever been the same, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I don't think he's ever been the same.
Well, it is historic. Like in 100 years, if your grandchildren's grandchildren will sing about the game that you watched. That's how big that is. Yeah. That 7-0 will be printed on T-shirts that will be sold on Anfield Road forever.
100%. It's like the 6-1 against them. I'm sure to this day you guys still talk about it. It's an all-time...
No, both of those Man City fans talk about that all the time.
Yeah, but all 2 of them.
I hope to live my entire life and never experience anything like that.
Hang on, you've experienced it. 6-1. 6-1 at the Bridge. No, you've got to stop lying on the podcast. You keep telling lies. We beat you 6-1.
Look, for the record, Chelsea are not even in this conversation. I'm talking about Arsenal. Like, I can deal with that. Like, Chelsea was one thing, but Arsenal, that would be unbearable.
I think the thing for me was the fact that...
What about when they won the league at your stadium?
Yeah.
What about Battle of the Bridge?
Didn't beat
against the worst Chelsea team of all time.
What about when they did beat us?
Well done, Jamie Redknapp. Good lad.
I was like, thank God.
Thank God for Jamie Redknapp. Yeah.
Thank God for Jamie Redknapp.
Yeah.
Those are dark days there.
For me, the 7-0 for me was like, I think Man United, sometimes people were quietly thinking things. And I think with the Barcelona game, winning the League Cup, and then a game like this, Man United fans were starting to think, maybe he's figured it out. Maybe we're getting close, going up the ladder,
100%.
getting close to Liverpool. And then Liverpool just literally just stood on their head and kicked them down. Yeah. And I think that shattered a lot.
And it was in one half, too. That's the thing as well. Yeah. We went into that half 1-0. And we were actually, I think we were unfortunate to go down 1-0. Yeah. I think it could have been a 1-1 game, honestly.
7 goals in an half.
It was an even game, honestly. Rashford went through a few times.
Do you know what I saw which really blew my mind? You know the game the other day, the 0-0?
Yeah.
In that game, Liverpool had 8 shots on target. That's the same amount of shots on target.
They have the same XG. They have the same XG in both games.
But isn't that why in that instance Ten Hag probably can't take the blame, because it was a capitulation from the players, so it was less significant. And now it's only the performances since then that you're starting to go, actually, that was Ten Hag's fault.
I can't lie though.
It was a mental result.
After 4, 5, 6, you got to just put 11 players behind the ball though.
But what's the? I mean,
at 3-0 down, it can't.
Yeah, it has to be damage limitation at that point. You have to protect the morale of the fan base, man.
We have this conversation to how the worse the defeat gets, the less it is the manager's issue, and more it is about the players.
I disagree.
Like 10-0 was a freak result. 9-0 was a freak result. Like Hasenhüttl survived 2 9-0 results in his tenureship at Southampton.
Yeah, we have a rule from the podcast which is up to 8, it's the manager's fault. But if it's 9,
No, I'm
if
saying
it's 9, it's like this.
When Defoe scored
at
that point, you just start siphoning down players. Yeah.
So
Paul
3-0
Jewell.
3-0 for a manager is worse than 9-0 because it just shows the tactical.
I don't agree. I don't agree.
He'll live with that for the rest of his life.
Facts.
That result 7-0.
He's the manager that lost
He's the
7-0
manager.
Liverpool.
Do you know what
He's
will
the
happen?
manager.
You know they're quite funny, aren't they? Like Liverpool, the way that they kind of deal with these things. There'll be a banner that will look celebratory. It will be done in quite a flattering sense. There will be a banner of Erik Ten Hag's face in the cop.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? They'll do that.
I hope so.
The only
do that.
respite is that they finished 5th. That's the
It's
only
like,
respite.
you know the way
honestly.
they've got that banner. They've got a banner in the cop that all it says, 1995. Which do you know what that is?
I don't
It's
know.
the last time Everton won a trophy.
Really, that's
It's just,
good.
Football fans are petty, man.
it's quite nice. It's a
That's
blue
great.
banner and it just says 1995. Nothing else. There'll
That
just
is
be
genius.
a really nice banner with Erik Ten Hag's face on.
Do you know what I really hope that Erik Ten Hag tifo? You know, sometimes the tifo can come down this way,
Yeah.
or it can go down that way. Oh, sorry, for anyone just listening, down or right. If it goes from left to right, Erik Ten Hag would watch it and go, "Oh, how
is
lovely!"
nice. Yeah.
There'll be some writing there. That was
Slowly he remembers he's watching a Liverpool game and not a United one.
yeah, exactly. For me, 2023. When I was sort of thinking, what is the moment? I was just like, wow, it's the Conte meltdown. 19th of March. Here you go, Flav. Step up. Here we go. He said, I see selfish players. I see players that don't want to help each other, don't play with heart. It's the same every season, no matter who the manager is. They're used to it here.
I mean, it's funny, isn't it? Because that same group of players without Harry Kane has played excellently and shown a togetherness that didn't exist last year.
That is a wild thing when
The
we're talking
guy's
about...
mental.
When
Like,
we-
he is a psychopath.
I agree.
He's also one of the best managers you've ever had.
No,
He is.
certainly not.
He is.
So I've never enjoyed following Spurs less than that.
But in terms of
I'm so happy
the,
you said
the,
that.
the
I'm so
esteem
happy
of
you
the
said
manager,
that.
the class
I
of
agree
manager,
completely.
The class
of manager, he's behind Mourinho in terms of stature
And yeah,
in your modern history.
He's
Who was also a rubbish Spurs manager. Let's not get
He
into
was
it.
terrible. So was Jose
Of
Mourinho.
course he was. The brand of football was awful, but he's a guy with incredible experience in the game. He's an icon. He's a legend. He's arguably world class as
And
a
he
manager.
failed.
He's a
And
brilliant
I'm talking
manager.
about this statement that
He
James
failed.
read out. Yeah, but he's read out a statement that is related to your club. And whether it's for right or for wrong,
But
there are players that don't play well for Spurs that have bottled it in big moments and haven't represented your club in the right way.
Yeah, but in order to get, I mean, you guys would know better than me, but I'd imagine in order to get success, a lot of things would need to go, to fall into place, right? And it has to have the right manager, the right players that are receptive to his ideas, the tactics that work for
He
that
spent
man.
200 million quid in the summer, remember?
Wasn't £200 million.
Won the window, didn't you?
He won the win.
We did win the window.
Conte or-
I mean, on
Yeah.
paper, we
Honestly,
did win.
yeah.
I mean,
Jack-
Be
Jed
fair,
Spence
guys.
done
Did
well.
win the win. They did win the window.
where is it?
Clement Longley, remember?
Yeah.
Oh my days.
Yeah.
Jed Spence.
Charles-
Jed Spence did well.
Don't know where he is.
They shipped him off to. Wait, I think he's in France now, or was he in France last year?
he was on loan.
I couldn't care less where Jed Spence is. I really don't. I don't
He's
care.
a good player as well.
But look, the
guys
fact
are
is regardless of what he had done before, the challenges at Tottenham Hotspur were different, and he wasn't up to
Leeds United,
up
he's
to
I
doing
completely
it.
agree, man.
And he's at Leeds.
Yeah.
Oh, well, how's he playing? All right.
Yeah, I think they're doing quite
Oh,
well.
good.
Third up.
They're third, yeah. So it wasn't. I was at the game at Southampton when we were 3-1 up, but we looked completely devoid of idea. We weren't attacking with any kind of seeming lack of enthusiasm for playing, and that just seeped into the ground. The away end was pretty toxic. It just felt horrible, and I came away from it going, I don't know where my football club is going, and there is one man responsible for it, and his name's Antonio Conte. So then when he exploded, I was like, well, thank God that's done, because no one's going to survive this. And they sacked him, and then because of that process, because of this Conte and Mourinho and Nuno Espirito Santo era, we've gone for a manager that is the polar opposite, which actually makes you feel like you belong to the right football club again, and wants to take you along with a journey rather than hate your guts, which is what it felt like. Have you ever sat there and your manager feel like, he hates me? He hates all of us.
Yeah, he did hate you.
Yeah.
There was that feeling, wasn't
but
it?
he left
All
your
the
club
time with
hating
Conte.
you.
No.
He falls out with almost every single board he's
fell
ever at.
out. He
Inter
fell
was
out.
similar. For me, I always say you sell your soul when you appoint Antonio Conte. You sell your soul for trophies. But the thing is, when the silverware doesn't come, you're left with no success
imagine
and the worst brand of football you can imagine.
That's exactly what happened.
I love him.
So I bet you do. I bet you do.
I love him. He did break my heart when he went to Tottenham. You know, I actually messaged him on Instagram. I DM'd him. I'm not even joking. I think he'll probably still be there. I sent him a DM and asked him not to go to Tottenham. Like, please don't go.
Yeah, I'm sure you're gonna as well.
And he ignored me.
Clearly.
He ignored me. He ignored
Did you
my.
see the message?
I'm gonna have a look.
Well,
now,
evidently
see if
not.
it's
He went about Spurs.
Yeah,
What's that like? The sort of 12-year-old in you just sort of.
Yeah, what was it?
Occasionally it
needs to
happens,
know.
doesn't it?
Was
He
you
needs
drunk?
to know.
Occasionally it happens.
I hope he was drunk, honestly.
Yeah, there it is.
Alright, that's more than one message, by the way.
Read it out.
That's more than one message.
Read it out. No, oh my god, it's really
Dearest
bad.
Antonio.
I can't do that. It's not far off that. It starts with "Please, I adore you." I'm not even joking. Buvey, look, doesn't it? It starts off with "Please, I adore you."
Read it, man.
Please, I adore you. The year we spent together in 2017 was the best year I've ever had following my club.
What?
Don't go there. Go anywhere, but please don't go there. You're so much better than them. Anywhere but there, please. And he went and he ignored me.
And he did.
I mean, that is.
How do you
amazing.
feel about the fact that
I'm
he
impressed.
blanked you on that?
Pardon?
Have you forgiven him?
I have because it didn't work.
Agent
It's like
Conte,
I can
isn't it?
love him again now. You know, our love will now be undying. But if he'd won a trophy at Tottenham, it would have been so terrible. Do you know what happened to Buvey and I
What's that?
on Australian TV? They put us
Yeah, I've seen.
on Australian news, so like the equivalent of London Tonight, like proper Australian news.
It's got to London tonight.
No, that's the news, isn't it?
London
6 o'clock.
Tonight is-
6 o'clock. That's the news.
6
London
o'clock
Tonight.
news. 6 o'clock news.
Well, it goes London Tonight after that,
yeah.
right? Anyway, whatever. The main news channel.
Yeah.
Me and him are on it. Genuinely.
What, just digging up?
Talking
So
about
you were that short. I
and
remember
they're,
that short.
and they're laughing at us. The presenters were laughing at
But your
us.
takes were horrendous, and they
we
were.
said he wasn't good
It's-
enough to win the Premier League.
No, you said he'd be first manager sacked.
Yeah, you.
When did I say that?
Yeah.
Look, I was just going along with you, boys, like I usually do.
But this is the thing, and I get it, right? There's currency in saying mental stuff, but it was unfair
You've got to stop
and
that.
disrespectful to a
It
manager.
was not out of the question that the Celtic manager goes to a massive institution like Spurs and struggles in a similar way Conte did, even though they're different kinds of managers. It's not out of the question that you lose. Like Nuno Espirito Santo lost his job very, very quickly.
Yeah, but you've
And Nuno's got a better career
we've-
pre-Spurs than
We've gone from that narrative to now Spurs fans being saying, "Well, just enjoy him while you can." That's in the space of.
I see.
15
I've heard a
games.
couple of things about he should be Man United. He should
I
be
really
taking
like
that job.
Boston.
Man
I would
United.
love Man United. Honestly,
That's what I've heard. It's not my opinion.
I'd love Man United to take him.
I would.
Can I ask this? Can I ask this?
Suddenly now everyone knows he's a future Manchester United, Real Madrid manager. Is
By
that
the way,
right?
you'll take Man United fifth like you are.
You went 5 games out of win recently, didn't you?
But the
You lost 4 out of 5.
But the
They're
performances.
fifth, but are they fifth?
Yeah.
That's really the question.
we are much better than our current position. Like, I think with a full strength team,
I agree.
What does that mean?
I think we challenge. I still think we could challenge for the league this year.
Get a grip.
I actually agree with you.
Get a
Yeah,
grip.
challenge for the
You're
league.
better than that.
No, I
I
think they'd
expect
win
this
it.
nonsense from him, but you're better than
I
that.
actually think
for the league.
as Spurs had kept their entire 11 healthy, like I'm not going to compare it to Leicester, but Leicester, we always talk about their fairy tale run. They were very fortunate that their entire 11, all throughout the season, didn't pick up a single injury.
If I had a six-pack, I'd be fighting Mike Tyson right now.
Spurs
Well,
won. Spurs
Who
won.
are you
Hold on.
So you don't have a 6-pack, so you're fighting who?
You in a minute.
They're 1 point behind you, by the way.
Where are you getting relegated?
No, but-
So let's talk about Man United.
I'm talking about
Let's talk about you scraping a 0-0 against
That's why I take. That's why I take Postecoglou.
Man United fans getting emotional with a 0-0 at Anfield.
He's just looking at it.
so-
He's just trying to get survival. He's just trying to
It's
get
all well
40
and good.
points.
How many sides would have won the
Don't
Premier League
cry,
if it wasn't
mate.
for 11
Mate,
fully
don't
fit
cry.
I
players?
did win it. I said they
Honestly,
did
he's getting
compete.
emotional
You're
after
in London's
0-0.
fashionable West End with James Allcott on the Ripple Effect. Don't cry.
Leave that
the,
calm.
Me, I'm trying to be 1 point behind City. That's why I take Postecoglou.
Any side that keeps 11 players fully fit, all their best players fully fit, they might have a chance.
Look,
No,
man,
no,
we
no.
could keep our entire
We-
23
we-
minutes fit. We're not going anywhere near the title.
Can I just leave him with this? Right, Tottenham Hotspur, a decimated Tottenham Hotspur side, absolutely annihilated Villa at home.
got beat.
We lost the game, but this is a Villa side. But no, but
Think about the second half of the
you can get
sentence.
fixated on results, but not see the processes that are at play. It's very reductive just to look at results.
Go to a better example.
You're showing no because everybody
Go to a better example.
Better
2-2
example is
City
that
was good for you.
that was 3-3
Sorry, free.
Real. That wasn't.
He's my quiz partner, for God's sake.
You were in
He
trouble.
didn't even
bro.
know
You were in
his
trouble.
team was.
all I'm saying is
I watched it with you, you idiot.
wait
One at a time.
and see. You just wait
Mate,
and
is that
see.
right? Okay,
Wait.
cheers.
And see.
I've heard that for 30 years.
Yeah. I do think. So, very quick answer. One in a word.
Yep.
Was for everyone in a word. Antonio Conte doing what he did was
me.
that the best thing that ever happened to Tottenham this year?
Yeah.
Over the last 5 years.
No, winning the league in 1961 when there's black and white TV is the best thing we've ever
no,
done.
in the last 5 years.
last
It's
5
the best
years.
things that happen. It's the best things that
Didn't
happen.
you make a
for
Champions League final in the last 5 years?
One word
The last
answers.
5
Yes or no? Yes or no? Yes or no?
The best thing of this year.
That
last year.
happening, that Antonio Conte outburst obviously led to him leaving, which led to
Yeah, it's
what
the
we're
best
seeing
thing to
now.
happen to them. Honestly, Stellini won more games than.
No, it was
the best thing
a
that can
terrible. It was a terrible thing to happen to the club. The manager of the club has had to come out and chastise the fans, the owners, the players. It's a disaster. It's
Chastise
crisis,
the
isn't it?
fans.
It was embarrassing. It was
He
embarrassing.
told you
He's
to get
embarrassed himself. He's
Yeah,
embarrassed
I agree.
himself.
Okay.
And the club.
Okay. Yeah, you like this. 9th of April, the day Arsenal lost the league. Xhaka's poor tackle lost Arsenal the league. Xhaka puts in a poor tackle at Anfield whilst Arsenal 2-0 up and cruising. This ignites the Liverpool crowd. Liverpool come back to draw 2-2. This was the start of Arsenal's crumble. They had, I think, Saka missed a penalty against West Ham. 3-3 draw against Southampton. I think that was on a Friday night, was it not? And a 2-2 draw followed as well. And
Brighton.
they started to
Brighton.
fall away. 3-0 loss to Brighton it was, wasn't it?
lost to
That confirmed. Oh, that's your quiz partner again there, Rory.
I'm saying that he lost to Brighton
Bloody
after the
hell.
Liverpool
Oh,
game.
lost to
This is
Right,
my
right,
tool.
right.
Yeah.
He's gonna carry
You
job
just
for me.
copied Flav, tried to get the credit, and then it wasn't. And then Flav got it wrong.
No, he lost 3-0 to Brighton.
Yeah, that's what I was
No,
saying.
James said 2-2, and you went
Rory,
Brighton, and he went
Rory,
Brighton.
listen to James. He was talking a minute.
This is
Don't
being
interrupt
recorded.
James.
You're gonna
Don't
sound
Don't
ridiculous.
interrupt James for us.
The Xhaka tackle. Are you having that? I think that's bollocks.
No, it's not bollocks at all. I
The
remember
flow of
watching
the
the
game
game.
changed.
I remember
I don't
watching the
think it
game.
did,
They
though.
did
It
not
was
manage
coming.
that game with the credit that they deserve because they played very well that game and they did not need to ignite the Liverpool fans.
I
Do
agree.
you know what I think is really important to acknowledge? It was I predicted that Arsenal were going another prediction that went wrong. I predicted that Arsenal were going to win the league pretty much all season last. In fact, all season last year. I thought they were going to do it. There was like an epiphany moment though when I genuinely thought, like, I really don't want them to win the league. I think they're going to do it. But suddenly I'm watching a game of football and this is coming true. They are actually going to win the league. They're 2-0 up on a title run-in at Anfield.
Yeah.
Like, nothing is more significant.
It was horrible.
2 early
You've gone-
goals as well, right?
You've gone to Anfield and you've put in a really professional opening 15 minutes. You've gone 2-0 up as the title race really hots up. That is it.
Yeah,
That is
I
going
lived
to
every minute of what you just said.
that is actually happening now.
Yeah, yeah.
And that was the moment where the penny dropped. I thought, okay, I'm now going to, rather than it being a prediction, I'm now going to actually have to start rationalising and processing Arsenal being champions and everything that goes with that.
Yeah. I've had,
And then
I
Those
started-
suddenly,
moments are
started
really
doing
weird.
that
And like, you must have had that with the treble when you go, oh, it's actually like,
it's actually happening. We're one game away from this
Oh,
now.
yeah,
We've done a double. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the Xhaka moment happened, and I suppose it is as seminal moment as anything else. Yeah.
I mean,
I'm not having it.
It's nice. It's a convenient moment because the crowd did change. The mood changed, and then you just saw Liverpool for pretty much
Felt
70.
like the Liverpool appetite changed as well. The play, like, they seemed to rise the tide
I
as
did
well.
feed
Like,
off that
It
crowd.
might have been a coincidence. Is that what you're saying?
I think it's wildly convenient, and I actually don't think he barely touched him. If anything, I guess the only thing is that Trent overreacted. Like, he didn't tackle him in a way that was, he didn't really
It's not
even
about
crunch
that.
him.
It's not
yeah.
about that.
Yeah.
It's
Didn't
not
even
about
punch
that.
him.
It doesn't matter.
He did it in a way that ignited the fans. I think he actually looked at the fans and said something.
Doesn't matter
You're
what it
2-0
actually
up.
is.
You
It's
just
what
go-
it's
you
what it
withdraw yourself from the
symbolises. It's what it
situation.
represents. It doesn't matter what it actually is. It's what it led to and what it meant in their
And
definition
Arsenal
of it.
lost the league because they're far too emotional last season, and an older, mature side, if it was someone like Gary Neville in that situation, absolutely would withdraw from the situation and would have not lost that game. No way.
The,
you
the
see him,
famously unemotional Gary Neville, by the way.
Yeah, but I think there's more maturity needed in that Arsenal side. I think Xhaka is
I
a
agree.
classic, throwing the armband away. And these players, he had one good season. Out
Not
of
in
7.
that game, though. He does not done that in
No,
that
it's
game.
4 years ago.
Arsenal have a player in their ranks last season that they're trying to win the Premier League title. One of their midfielders, core midfielders, a few years ago threw the armband off at the Emirates.
Well, they say,
That's emotion.
They're being led by a baby, though, aren't they? That's the problem. So they
big
behave.
child.
They behave like babies.
Yeah,
So
man, baby.
I think it's convenient to forget though as well. Like they exited that game 2-2. They were still top of the league.
Yeah.
Wasn't it not the next week against West Ham?
Yeah.
Where Saka
think
misses the penalty. I think that's a huge turning
I
point.
agree. I think if we're pinpointing where they lost the league, there are lots of things.
For sure.
If we're pinpointing where it actually happened, it was Saka not putting them 3-1 up.
I agree.
3-1, they win that game.
I agree.
Yeah.
And it
agree,
just
100%.
calms everything down a little bit more. I think when it was then goes to the Southampton game, who are bottom of the league, I
Yeah.
think at this point, you're thinking, like, you can't be losing that.
Also,
This
didn't they
should be a
concede
tap
in that
here.
game after about 10 seconds?
Yeah, really bad.
They were
Yeah.
down
Ramsdale.
3-1 after 90 minutes.
That's
Yeah.
right. I think they concede so early in that game, almost as a hangover from not beating West Ham, and it's all
Yeah, so
linked.
it's
But we
a
talk
ripple
about all
effect,
these sides. What about beating your rivals in the Premier League title race? They didn't do that.
Yeah.
They didn't do that.
They didn't need to, though.
when
They got themselves into such
but
a
you
privileged
do
situation.
You do have to. You have to beat
No,
the
but
rivals.
Booth, what
You
I'm saying
do.
here is literally they didn't have to. They got themselves into such a privileged situation
Yeah.
that they could have afforded to go to the
No.
Etihad and lose and win the league.
But and they could have afforded to make a mistake against West Ham, make a mistake against Liverpool if they'd beaten City at the Emirates, beaten City at the Etihad.
True.
They had 2 games against City in 2023 and lost both.
16th of May, Inter beat AC Milan in the Champions League semi-final. The ripple was, this is the reason Man United signed Onana. Inter getting to the Champions League final carries a lot of weight because nobody expected them to get there. And when a team like this does well, their players get poached. If you think of that Monaco team in 16-17 that beat Man City and a whole host of other teams went on to decimate their starting lineup. Therefore, with this logic, Inter getting to the Champions League final could have played a part in Man United's decision to sign Onana.
Does
Some
that
may
mean-
feel it's far-fetched. And to those people I say, this is Man United's scouting team.
Does that mean
talking
that
about,
if
yeah.
Milan had won that, we would have signed Mike Maignan?
I think, do you know what? The thing I'll have with
Would've
this
been better.
one,
Yeah, we would have been a lot better.
if he's not had the spotlight of a Champions League final,
Yeah.
the talk around him when he came in was too much.
Way too much.
Way
He's bang
too
average.
much.
He's bang average.
Bang average. is a stretch.
Statistically,
He is.
the best keeper in Serie A last season, though.
Great.
I think everyone-
Ruben off his cheek is Maradona.
It would have been a quieter transition and transfer if they were in the semi-final. The fact that he was kind of in that final, played
Yeah.
well in that final.
Did he play well?
I think. Yeah, I think he did.
No,
yeah.
did he play well in that final?
Yeah, he played
Well.
exceptionally well, I think. I think he had a really good performance against you guys.
He
Attacking
barely
the
touched
word
the ball.
well.
I think he touched the ball more than
He
Haaland.
didn't have a bad game, so he wasn't a 0 out of 10.
So he
Did he
played
have a
well,
10
did
out of 10 no, he had a 5 out of 10 game.
What?
Yeah, he lost 1-0.
At the time-
I can't think of a
Hold on, so-
save he made, a world-class save to deny City.
Erling Haaland in like 5 minutes.
No.
I think there's
No
a
way.
there's a
Average.
rewriting of history going on here. When they signed Onana, it was the signing. It was the
Yeah.
perfect signing. It was exactly what they needed, and I think that was the general consensus. I don't think anybody predicted it not
Do you
being
know
a
what?
good signing.
And coming back to the summer with Ten Hag, it was like, oh, this makes sense. This is the next step in the strategy of getting this team to play free-flowing football like Ajax did.
100%. I think it's not just about Onana, it's also about De Gea.
Yeah.
Right?
can't
Every
play
United
Ten
fan
Hag
who
system
watched
with
United last season,
They were fed up with him.
I was fed up with him.
The cup
honestly.
final. There's a ripple. It was the cup final.
And-
Good,
and,
good,
Europa
good
League
goal
as
in the
well,
cup
Sevilla.
final. It's like, mate,
embarrassing.
what? You,
No, I mean De Gea. You can count the amount of mistakes that he's made, not just in the last year, but the last 10 years. Honestly, have gone massively under the
Hundreds.
radar, and it was long overdue to replace him.
but the cup final.
three
Oh, yeah,
fingers.
that's the
like that,
ultimate one.
do you know that
Three
was my
fingers of
moment?
mistakes.
That was my moment with him in the
List
cup
them.
final.
I could list 100 of them off the top of my head.
Yeah, see?
honestly.
Probably good.
Honestly,
There you go.
That's
That's a
yeah,
good
there's so many of them. Honestly,
Flav, June 7th, West Ham Conference League win. What are your reflections on
I
that
hate
night?
it. I absolutely hate it, and I respect West Ham for just not letting it go. Like when they sing Champions of Europe, you'll never sing that. That's what they should be doing. That's what they make everybody feel.
They can't sing that to you though. It's because the trophy that you won in Europe is more significant than the trophy they won in Europe.
Yeah, but 10 years might be like.
They can't
It's
sing
a
that to
long-
you. It's factually inaccurate. It's
I'm
frustrating.
not sure they really care whether it's factually inaccurate.
It's lies.
They're just trying to wind.
you think 50,000 drunk West Ham fans care about the
Look,
facts?
when I just Spurs were in the Conference League and I was like, this is awful. Just get out of it as soon as possible. We're playing teams I've never heard of. When West Ham won it, I was like, I would have liked a bit of that.
Yeah, it's like last week on Saturday I had to do axe throwing with my mates. Yeah, exactly. And on the way I was thinking, I don't want to do this.
Yeah, I hate that stuff.
I don't want to be
hate that
here.
kind of
I don't want to do
organised
this.
fun crap.
Yeah, and then I got there. It was all right. And that's the Conference League.
yeah.
That's the Conference League.
They're right there
That's
with
West Ham
shit, but
Conference
hey,
League.
you get
Yeah.
there, lift the trophy, it's not
Yeah.
bad.
Well, it's like you skipped it. You went, oh no, some
There
things have happened this morning. I'm not going to be able
It's
to make that.
sneery,
Right.
it's sneery for you to not want it.
Absolutely agree
It's
with you.
not a theory. Get on with it. Enjoy it. Win it. Like
It's-
zone into the
Like,
moment.
Given the fact we haven't won anything in of note in years. The fact that we and myself went into that and thinking we're above this is the incorrect attitude. And
Although you weren't the only one. I remember Brendan Rodgers when he was at Leicester. He was asked about the Conference League. And his answer was amazing. He basically went, I don't really know what it is.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't care. I'm not sure.
But in England, West Ham's win legitimised.
That's when he got knocked out in the semi-finals as well.
Yeah.
It's Roma, right?
Yeah.
I think it was Roma.
Is it? And I mean, Roma and Fiorentina in it was Fiorentina who they beat, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Look, if you're
Right.
these are massive clubs in Europe, and if you get them in any kind of European competition at that stage, it becomes massively important. So I would have liked a bit of that, and if we ever get back into it again, I would want us to go and win it.
The thing to remember with the Conference League is it's about you're playing the early rounds for the spectacle of a semi-final against whoever it might be, or the final where it is, and that whole trip.
It's a
That's
little
what
bit
needs
like
to
a
people need
League
to
Cup
keep in
mentality,
mind.
isn't it? You know when certain teams they play the kids in the League Cup until the semi-final.
Yeah, and you can take it seriously.
Yeah. That's why I like when I see teams like Fiorentina and West Ham in it, because I think if City or United and Chelsea are playing in the Conference League, objectively none of us want to be in there. But there are
Jose was crying his eyes out.
Yeah,
when
to
he
be
won
fair,
it.
and for Roma it was a big
He's got
deal.
a tattoo.
Right?
He's got a tattoo of it, hasn't he?
Yeah.
Has he?
Yeah, he's got a tattoo.
So you like
Well,
Clattenburg?
and look, I mean, just I know I don't want to move backwards in the conversation, but the manager that couldn't negotiate the Conference League was Conte.
Good point.
He's not very good in Europe.
10th
actually.
of-
Even I
He's
can-
horrible.
He's
Oh
not very
my
good in
days, the
Europe.
worst
true.
European manager ever.
10th of June, Manchester City's treble. The best and worst thing to happen to Man City, Buvey? Did this treble win finally push Man City over the edge into being too arrogant?
About what? I don't think City fans are too arrogant.
We've seen that they were willing to sell players to rivals in the past,
I hate
Zinchenko
that.
and Jesus.
I hate that you've done that. by
But
the way.
after this win, they of course sold Cole Palmer to Chelsea. They also didn't recruit well, and maybe there was too much belief in the squad that they had in hindsight. Replacing Gundogan with Nunez, which feels like a big mistake. And they're not got a backup for Rodri, although I guess they bought Calvin Phillips, but decided he can't play football. Is it the best and worst thing that's happened to you as a fan?
There is no downside to winning the treble, and there never will be.
Good point.
And the transfer strategy of the club has been near on perfect for whatever big club you talk about. You look at Man City's transfer strategy in the last 10 years; it's the best by a country mile. It is the best. Replacing 33-year-old Gundogan, replacing 31-year-old Mahrez, getting money in from the Saudi Arabian League for Mahrez. These are smart pieces of business. Now, in the short term, it looks bad against the likes of Arsenal. We didn't control the game against Liverpool, against Chelsea, against Spurs. We've not controlled games to win football matches. We might struggle to win the league this season. But long term, you can't sit there and see you win the treble and then go on and try and strengthen even further to be long term successful. I still think it's good business. But ultimately, it comes off the back of one of the most defining seasons in the history of English football.
You sound like a financial advisor right there. About.
But we've been doing the same.
We might not win the league, but we have £35 million in the bank for
Yeah,
next
exactly.
season. Can you put that £35 million on the bench?
I actually agree with Buvey. I would say that take something out. There's so much more. Apparently, having watched Manchester City keenly last year, like that was great. To be honest, like when Spurs were doing nothing, and it was just I watched Manchester City like they were Spurs. Every goal you scored, I was like bouncing around my living room. But the mental application that goes into it, along with the quality and the tactics and everything else that you'd imagine isn't. There's a limit to it, and this season you do look like a team that ran the marathon, and so I think there's some sort of there's a step down, and maybe you have got a fallow year.
I think the truth is in what Buvey has said and James's question. I think that it's going to be very difficult for Boo to acknowledge that because it's difficult when it's your team, and it's impossible for a Man City fan to ever see the negative in winning a treble because I agree with it. There isn't one, but it's not us. We're not emotional about it, and I think that what you're saying, the question that you asked is. It probably is. There probably is some accuracy in that. They do strengthen rivals a little bit. They're a bit willing to do it. Don't give Cole Palmer to Chelsea, obviously, because not only is he brilliant for Chelsea.
12th place Chelsea, guys. Well, we're acting like he's funding a
But
title
he's been the
race.
shining light.
Also, they could do with him. Yeah, he'd get in the Man City
Like
team.
that's my whole point, right? Because I hear a lot about this. Okay, we had to do this and we had to do that for the long term. Let's not act like everything that City did this summer went according to plan. First of all, you wanted Lucas Paqueta. Does Mateus Nunes come in if Paqueta comes in?
That's not our fault that Paqueta has circumstances.
No, 100%. So it didn't go to plan. That's my whole point. Cole Palmer, it was not part of the plan to sell him this summer. He wanted to leave because he didn't believe he was going to get enough chances. The Gundogan and Mahrez thing, I think Pep even came out and said we didn't want to sell either of them.
Got to
It's
give
them who wanted.
Gundogan 3 years.
That's
Just
what I was
Gundogan.
gonna say.
Gundogan's my
That's
point.
part of the arrogance that you're flagging, which I think is true.
And I
but
think
he's never going to see that.
100%. I think it's well known that Pep wanted to keep Gundogan, and it was actually a difference in opinion between the board and Gundogan that they wanted to give him 1 year and he wanted 2 or 3.
Length of contract,
so
yeah.
I don't like this whole thing of like, oh, this is going to strengthen us in the future. It might, but not because you planned for it to happen.
Isn't that the arrogance though? Isn't that the arrogance when you if Gundogan is saying I want to stay for 3 years and the board is saying well we're only going to give you 1 because we don't need you for 3. It's being proved now that they do desperately need him because Kovacic hasn't landed. Calvin Phillips, I don't know what to say next. And Nunes is.
But the track record's there because of someone like Leroy Sané coming in, someone like Bernardo Silva's come in. So many young players that have come in, and Kovacic and Nunes kind of fit that bill. And Gvardiol's been great. Doku's come in. So actually, the club.
Gvardiol's been great.
It's great to have 2020 vision now. Sat here
Gvardiol's
in December.
not been great.
Gvardiol's been good. He's a
do
very,
you know what I
very
think?
good
I wouldn't even call it arrogance, but I would say that an over focus on and willingness to be ruthless. Now, being ruthless is a good thing, right? And Pep has done that brilliantly. I think the Gundogan thing, that it sometimes Fergie used to do that quite well with Giggs and Scholes, and he'd just kind of keep one of them, one of those guys, because there'll be games where you need Gundogan for 20 minutes or whatever. And also, I think there's a few managers in that squad, but you could work on that. Or go, wow, you're playing brilliant. Let's just use you, because he was clutch, like time and again. And I think that is the biggest problem for Man City. Is sometimes it's in the moments, and as dominant as Man City are, that's what you're missing at the moment with Kevin De Bruyne, who will just get you that goal and take that moment. Same with Gundogan, and actually the same with Riyad Mahrez.
But what are we talking about here? Because ultimately we're 5 points off the top. We're not 12, 15 or 20 points. We're 5 points off the top. We came out of our Champions League group with the same amount of points as Real Madrid. A perfect result in the Champions League.
We're talking about you being 4th in the league.
We're talking about us being slightly falling off.
You're only
to
one
last season.
position ahead of Spurs.
Why should City be top of the league by 10 points now? City didn't win the league last season like that. City have never won the league.
There's a fair point in that fact that you have been perfection, and so once you drop from that perch,
the start of last season we were rubbish.
I was saying last season that City team is the worst City team in Pep's tenure.
But do you know what I think?
We were, and guess what happened? We won the treble. What is the season after? Is it back-to-back trebles? I mean, absolutely not.
United won 2 more league titles in a row.
I think if we get to winning the FA Cup this season,
I've got a
being
great
great
ripple effect with regard to Man City.
Hold on. City winning the FA Cup this season, solely that is a good accomplishment for City.
If you ask a City fan, a day out of Wembley and doing well in the league, do you think City fans are sitting there saying, let's have a back-to-back trebles and all that?
No,
not
that's
back-to-back
a step back. That's a massive step back.
Surely the league. It's not good.
Yeah, I want to compete for the league. And we have. We're 5 points off the
you're
top.
redefining.
Apparently, we're the worst season of all time.
When you started the season and you were like winning every single game, it was your best start to a Premier League season, you were saying that the league was the point and the league was imperative and everything like that.
I would say at this point, you probably still believe City will win the league.
Do you know what? To go back, sometimes you can go back to a parallel universe where it would all change. Do you remember in the summer when it felt like City had signed Declan Rice? Imagine if that had actually happened. They would have the league sewn up.
July 1st to September 7th, the Saudi transfer window. The Saudi transfer window may have changed the Premier League forever, but not for the reason you think. We all know what happened in the transfer window. Big names that went: Neymar, Mane, Koulibaly, Ronaldo. But nobody realised at the time that it would mean that one club outside Saudi Arabia would hold the most power.
Newcastle.
The Premier League have just voted on whether loans from clubs within the same ownership model should be allowed or not, and they voted in favour of it, which means that the big players in the Saudi League could be loaned to Newcastle United with no rules broken. Obviously, a lot of Premier League clubs would be against that as a single thing. Their hands were forced due to many of them having multi-club ownership models. Man City, Bournemouth, Chelsea, very possibly soon there will be Man United and Everton as well. How are we feeling about the Saudi thing? It was such a huge part of the summer, wasn't it?
Yeah, I'm not worried about the threat of it, the existential threat of it, and how they might take over from the Premier League and all that sort of stuff. It annoys me that clubs are using the Saudi League as an advantage now. That Manchester United are now touting around players that they don't really want because they know that there's a
little get out of.
Yeah, it's like, how do we get out of this situation? Well, let's use Saudi oil money. Like Newcastle get a lot of sticks. They've been receiving stick for 10 years, but now it's all right to just exploit this money well of the Saudi League. Don't get me wrong. If someone wants
to buy Eric Dyer for 40 million.
Straight away, he'd put him on a plane.
He'll learn the Saudi anthem.
Yeah, of course. But right now that isn't happening, so I can stay on my high horse and say that that it is a frustrating thing.
The whole thing is hateful. Let's just be totally frank about it. The whole thing is hateful. Like Chelsea getting out of jail, managing to sell the likes of Koulibaly and Mendy and whoever else to the Saudi league, it's bent. Like, you know, Clearlake...
Loophole after loophole.
It's bent. Clearlake, the ownership at Chelsea, have direct links and have huge amounts of invested money from the PIF. The whole thing is outrageous. And now we're in a situation which is completely unjust, which means Newcastle United can strengthen. But not only can Newcastle United strengthen, so for example, Ruben Neves will go and play central midfield, but they also have the monopoly on who they won't let strengthen and who they can strengthen, who else they will let strengthen. So for example, if someone needs a centre forward, I don't know, if Newcastle needed a centre forward, they could potentially get Benzema. If Chelsea needed a centre forward, they could potentially give it to Chelsea, but let Chelsea get Benzema, because Chelsea aren't really a direct threat to Newcastle.
But if United wanted Benzema...
But if United did, say United needed Conte, absolutely not. So not only are you strengthening yours...
Thank God, aren't you?
Yeah, you're not. It's not a free market, is it? Because Chelsea could offer the same money, and Chelsea aren't really going to be a problem for Newcastle United. So they go, yeah, we could strengthen Newcastle. We could strengthen Chelsea, because when Newcastle play Chelsea, maybe that guy don't play. But when one of our rivals, like Manchester United, play Chelsea, that geezer plays and takes points off them. It's puppeteering.
I think it's very hypothetical, though, right? Like,
of course.
Yeah. I don't know. For me, the way I look at the Saudi League, I would have had a huge problem with it if that rumored Mbappe move for however much, what was it, £1 billion he was set to make in 2 years. I would have had a huge problem if that kind of went through, because I believe every league around the world has the right to organically grow and one day aspire to be the best in the world. But organically is the key word there. And I didn't have a problem when they were throwing money at Benzema, Kante, Cristiano Ronaldo, because for me it's on a larger scale, but it's really no different to what the MLS were doing, what China were attempting to do.
It's what the Premier League did.
100%. 100%. Every league has to throw money at something to eventually grow, but the Premier League wasn't throwing money at, for example, Van Basten. They were throwing money at a washed-up Ruud Gullit or players. Ruud Gullit was a few years off his Ballon d'Or winning season. If you know what I mean, right? They weren't signing players at the pomp of their careers. They were kind of signing the players kind of going into the last years in Serie A. If they had signed a Kylian Mbappe, a Victor Osimhen, players that were at the top of their career that could aspire to win Ballon d'Ors, Champions Leagues, and they were going towards the money at such a young age in the peaks of their career, that's where for me I would have looked at the league a little fishy, to be honest.
There's nothing wrong with free market. I rate the Saudi League and I want it to work for them in their own way, right? I completely agree. Let's make sure that we don't want a monopoly on a good league.
Yeah.
They're allowed a good
Absolutely.
league. The issue that I have with it is that it feels like it's going to affect the Premier League now. Stopping if Newcastle and Tottenham are going head to head for top four. Kante will play for Newcastle and Tottenham cannot sign him.
Why is that an advantage? All these players that you've mentioned, except Neves, who's in his prime, they're all washed up.
Exactly. So that's why for me,
that's what
at
you're
this
saying.
level,
That's what you're saying.
if they got Mbappe, now Mbappe can decide, I want to play for Newcastle.
Benzema's washed up, man.
But it's not about whether your opinion of the player is that the player isn't very good. That's not the point. The point is that it
I'm
can
using
happen.
my opinion to extrapolate a point in this podcast. And the point of the matter is that do I think Benzema, who looks washed up in the Saudi Arabian League,
Benzema was Ballon d'Or. Benzema was the reigning Ballon d'Or holder until a couple of months ago.
All right, I've watched him in the Saudi Arabian League. He's looked rubbish.
That doesn't change the fact that he went to the Saudi League as the
I think
Ballon
you can
d'Or.
question if they're making a massive difference to sporting integrity. If they're 38 years old.
Let me tell you this. I think it'll be an issue too.
No, some of the players over there are old.
Yeah,
like
of course,
Ronaldo's 38.
But you are saying that it's fine because, in your opinion, some of them are 38 and some of them are washed up.
I mean, to be fair, we could use an
fine.
example of Neymar, right? Neymar is currently he's injured long term. We don't know how he comes back.
Isn't Ruben Neves the example? Obviously not to the he's greatest players in the world, but that's a massive thing for Newcastle, who'd brought in a midfielder who's now not available to go and get one who's clearly good enough.
Whether you rate him or not you specifically, or not Buvey specifically, but in this example, Buvey, whether you rate him or not, if a manager were to decide, if Eddie Howe were to decide that Koulibaly, who in your opinion is washed up, but if Eddie Howe thinks Koulibaly could do a job for Newcastle, and they get him, at the expense of anyone else bidding fairly for him. That's not fair.
The bigger issue here is the motive of that league. It's not to bring a sporting competition that the nation loves. There's 800 people watching Steven Gerrard's tie.
Nah, hold on. Those Saudi leagues, the crowds in the Saudi league are actually quite impressive. I will have to say that.
I think
800 people didn't watch Steven Gerrard.
Yeah, but Steven Gerrard's team isn't a huge team in Saudi Arabia. If you look at Benzema's team, if you look at Cristiano Ronaldo's team, the grounds there are filled up quite a bit more than that.
Because Ronaldo's there, not because before.
I would disagree, to be honest with you. I think Al Hilal is one of the bigger teams in Asia.
Fair enough. I might be incorrect there, but I am correct in the fact that the driving force behind this league isn't sporting.
I would agree with you. Yeah.
Right, last couple of things. So 27th of July, Henderson went to Al Ettifaq. August 12th, Harry Kane leaves Spurs and joins Bayern Munich. And November 20th, we had that Everton get deducted 10 points. Now, we've got a very important quiz to do. So what I would like to finally ask you is, what would you say are your top 3 moments of 2023? I can run through them quickly, again, if you need me to.
I got my 3.
Go on.
Do you have that in order? Or just in general?
If you can do it in order, that'd be great.
Yeah, I would say third is the 7-0. I think that's a huge moment for both clubs. I would actually say second is Jude Bellingham going to Real Madrid, because I think the ripple effect, if you will, of that move potentially going down. I mean, you could be seeing one of the greatest players that we ever see, especially coming from England. And then first for me has to be Manchester City winning the treble.
Yeah, I'm literally exactly the same. I think the Bellingham thing gets underrated as well. I think he's as good as anyone of his age to ever play the sport.
The way he's looking right now is absurd.
The only one I'd definitely chuck in there is Arsenal's capitulation.
Yeah, I think that's in mine as well.
Yeah,
Actually,
how good was it?
Harry Kane going to Bayern Munich. We
Yeah,
didn't talk about that enough.
big move.
No, I mean, look, we've been with time, haven't we? But we've been with time, sure. Look, but both me and Rory, although we have different affiliations, right? We were in the same boat when watching this Arsenal charge towards the title, and genuinely, both of us had talked many times throughout last year. Oh my God, they're going to do it. How do we process this? How do we reconcile it? How do we speak about this? And then it didn't happen.
Yeah.
We were like, thank the Lord for that.
Yeah,
thank the Lord for you lot.
Yeah.
Like, I was all for financial doping at the end of last year.
Do you know who our Trojan horse is going to be this year? Unai Emery.
Yeah.
Mate, I'd take that all day.
Unai Emery.
Come on.
I think the treble, however we want to position it, the treble winners, Guardiola, Haaland, Rodri, whatever we concluded was the representation of that treble is number 1 for me.
Yeah.
I think number 2 is actually having discussed it, that 7-0. You know, when we were talking about it, I went, this lives forever. They're going to have a banner on the copper 10. Like, it is that, because it's so significant. And third, I'm going to go Arsenal's capitulation.
Okay. I'm going to go in terms of it, like, actually being significant, maybe to a smaller amount of people, but I'm going to put West Ham third. I just think that honestly, that when I've spoken to West Ham fans, it is just enormous for them, like so huge for them. Probably, yeah. Saudi are different.
If you're
different
doing
reasons.
this one in Essex, it's number 1. If
Exactly.
you're doing this one for world audience, it's not on.
True.
Number 17.
Yeah. If we're in Romford now, this is definitely the one.
Let me see if I can claw it back. Saudi Arabia, all of that in the summer, I would put in second spot. And yeah, trebles are treble, isn't it?
Yeah.
Can't get away
Historic.
from